Hi, I'm Haley Hartzog, and I'm a sophomore at King, and I will be presenting on The War That Saved My Life by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. Kimberly Brubaker Bradley was born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and she was born in 1967. She attended Smith College and graduated in 1989 with a degree in chemistry, and Smith College is located in Northampton, Massachusetts. During her sophomore year of college, her roommate convinced her to take an Introduction to Children's Literature course, and the professor encouraged her writing and taught her the art of writing for children. She then went on to marry her high school sweetheart, Bart Bradley, and for several years she worked as a freelance writer for equestrian magazines and as a part-time editor. In 1994, her son Matthew was born, and then they moved to Bristol, Virginia/Tennessee, right on the line. And in 1998, her daughter Katie was born. Her first published novel, Ruthie's Gift, was published in 1998 by Delacorte, and it won a Publishers Weekly Flying Start Award. In 2005, her novel, Weaver's Daughter, was chosen by the Tennessee Library Association as the juvenile book that most represents Tennessee. Brubaker Bradley is also a Newbery Honor Award winner, and she is a #1 New York Times best-selling author. The War That Saved My Life was published in 2015, and in 2016 it was a Newbery Honor Book winner, and it won the 2016 Schneider Family Book Award, and it is also a #1 New York Times bestseller. This historical fiction novel follows the Smith children, Ada and her little brother Jamie, as they are moved to a town outside of London to be kept safe during the start of World War II. Ada was born with a clubfoot, and her mother views it as a feature that brings her shame. She treats Ada as property rather than a person, and she teaches Ada to view her clubfoot as a burden. When Jamie leaves London with the rest of the children from his school, Ada sneaks with him and leaves, mainly so she can escape the abuse from her mother and so she can escape her own personal war. Susan Smith is then forced to keep the children during that time, and they all learn how to navigate the time they have together during the war and how to navigate life. There are many characters in The War That Saved My Life, and I will be talking about a few of them that I find to be very important. Ada Smith is the main protagonist in the novel, and she is the narrator. She is about 11 years old, and her father passed away, and her mother kept her, and it is revealed in the novel that her mother never really wanted any children, so that could be a reason why she treats her poorly. Jamie Smith is Ada's little brother, and he is about 6 years old. Mam is the main antagonist in the story. She is Ada and Jamie's mother. Susan Smith is the woman outside of London who keeps the Smith children and treats them as her own. Stephen White is Ada's friend from London, and he is in the same town that they go to when they leave London, and they become even better friends then. And Maggie is also Ada's friend, well, her new friend that she makes in the town outside of London. Butter is Susan Smith's horse, but quickly becomes one of Ada's best companions and Ada's friend, and almost Ada's horse as well. And I would also consider the war, World War II, to be a character in the book, just because it climaxes with the story, and it comes and goes, and it develops over time. There are a few major themes in The War That Saves My Life. Those themes are overcoming adversity, hope, abuse, pain, war, and belonging. Ada has no real concept of the world outside of their flat in London because her mother never let her out of the house. Her mother made her sit in a chair by the window, and she would talk to the people in London that would walk by her window, and they would wave and say, "Hi, Ada." And she would just go about her day. She wasn't allowed to go to the bathroom. She had to use a bucket. So when she left London and went to the city, or to the town, she didn't even know what grass was. She didn't know what the trains were. She didn't even know that oceans existed. While she was living with Susan Smith, the teachers from the local school from London who went to teach in the town called her stupid, and Susan said that she simply just had not been taught. That is one way Ada has to overcome adversity, because everyone looks down on her because they think that she's stupid because Ma'am had kept her locked up, and she has to overcome the stigma and the stereotype that had been placed on her by her own mother. And another way this theme is explored is through the problems caused by Ada's clubfoot. Many times in the novel, Ada injures her foot even more. She scratches it as she's trying to learn to walk, and it rips open, and she gets blood on the floor. So she has to overcome that. She has to overcome her struggle using crutches when she gets them. She has to overcome many struggles and many different types of adversity. And I would even say that Susan Smith has to overcome adversity. She is a sad woman because her best friend Becky passed away. So she has to dig down and find strength to watch over Ada and watch over Jamie. Hope is probably the most prominent theme, or one of the most prominent themes in this novel. Even though Ada and Jamie were living in poverty, and even though they, along with Miss Smith, were trying to navigate their lives through the war, they were each encouraged to have hope and to keep trying. Miss Smith encouraged Ada to keep learning, and she encouraged Jamie to keep reading, and she also encouraged Ada to keep writing better. Abuse is seen through Ma'am. Ma'am not only physically abuses Ada, she mentally abuses her, verbally abuses her, emotionally abuses her. And the repercussions from that abuse is seen throughout the novel. So Ada is always having to overcome that. Ma'am taught her to view her clubfoot as a burden, so Ada sees herself as stupid, and she sees herself as worthless almost. And it's really sad, because then later on in the novel she realizes that she is worth something, and that's where belonging comes in. She realizes that she does belong in the world, that she does belong with Jamie and with her family, which she always knew she belonged with Jamie, but she stated at one point that even home in her own town, well, in London, that she was seen as a monster. And in the town that she went to outside of London, the people there, they didn't even really know how to treat her, like the teachers. War is a major theme in this book because World War II is going on. That is why the children had to be moved outside of London. And Ada is also having her own personal wars, her war with Ma'am, her war with her clubfoot, her war with the pain that she has faced and the pain that she continues to face. And Susan Smith is also having her own war with depression. She gets sad in the winter. She remains in bed some days because of her sadness. So they continuously have to fight to overcome all of this. My thoughts. I really enjoyed this novel. I had not heard about it before this class, and I really like historical fiction. And I love history, and I really liked that this book did not focus on the war itself. Like, the war was not the main focus of the story, but the characters and the children were the main focus. And I really liked how Ada had her own wars and how that coincided with World War II. In the novel, it did provide accurate information about World War II, such as in the scenes where it talked about Dunkirk, how the men came into London and were all injured and beaten and battered and torn, and how the women had to go act as nurses and help them. I would definitely recommend this book to others just because it does grapple with some pretty difficult themes, and that is also why I would classify it as a young adult novel. If I had known about this book, I probably would have read it in middle school, so I would teach this to students who are in middle school, also because Ada is about that age, and so they could relate to that, and they could relate to pain because middle school, that is a very sensitive time for students, and so I believe they would be able to relate to that character very well. A few of my favorite quotes and passages are, "At last I understood what I was fighting and why, and ma'am had no idea how strong a fighter I'd become." Ada says that in chapter 42. That is when ma'am comes to Susan Smith's house to take her and Jamie back home, and Ada already knew that she did not want to be with ma'am. She wanted to stay with Susan, and so she recognized her ability as a fighter. Another quote is, "We'd escaped, ma'am, Hitler's bombs, my one-room prison, everything. Crazy or not, I was free." Ada says this when they leave London and when they're on the train. This is the first real sign of hope that Ada has. In this next quote, the iron-faced woman says it when nobody picks the children to watch over them and to keep them. During the time outside of London, she says, "They're children. It's not their fault what they look like. They were all battered. They had not been bathed. They were dirty. They were smelly. But Susan Smith was forced to take them, and she takes really good care of them." Another quote is, "Stephen nodded. 'Don't worry about walking to the station,' he said. 'I'll give you a ride.'" This is one of my favorite passages in the entire novel. It's in chapter 3 when Ada has to walk to the train. Stephen is her friend from London. He would walk by the window and talk to her and wave, and she would wave back. But like everyone else in London, they thought that she wasn't right in her mind, and that he even told her that. And he said that everybody feels sorry for her, ma'am, and not her. And so when he sees that she's all right, that she is intelligent, and that she just has a clubfoot, or she says that she's crippled, he shows her kindness, and he does act as a real friend. And another passage I really like is in chapter 30, when Ada says, "I could listen to Susan say she never wanted children all day long. I couldn't bear to hear her call me beautiful." I thought this was interesting because she could hear the hateful words from her, but the kindness, she thought that it was all lies because that's what ma'am had taught her. Ma'am had taught her to not believe that she was beautiful, to not believe that she was strong or capable or smart. And Susan makes her this beautiful dress, this beautiful velvet dress, and gives it to her. And Ada just doesn't think that she's worthy of such a gift and of such love. So I think that is a really showing passage about the kindness and the hope in this story. A few questions for consideration when reading this novel are, how is identity affected by class, like social class, economic class, etc.? And when I think about this question, I think about the scene where Ada and Jamie do not get picked because of their class, and I also think about Maggie, Ada's friend. She's the iron-faced woman's daughter. And because they are wealthy and they are in a higher class, she is able to be sent to a boarding school during the war that is much safer than the town that Ada and Jamie and Susan are in. Another question is, how do World War II and Ada's personal war coincide? How do they go together? How do they interact? How do they affect each other? And the third question is, how can the treatment of Ada's disability by ma'am and by others be related to the treatment of disabilities in today's society? Thank you for watching.